to Paris, a State of Mind. Join us as we talk about the good, the bad, the ins, the outs of property rentals and purchases in and around Paris. We'll have topics for renters, owners, and visitors, share questions we are regularly asked, and more. My name is Gail Boisclair of Perfectly Paris, and my co-host is Marie Pistinier of Lokim Paris. Be a part of it. Both of us are proud members of the SPLM, the first representative body of furnished rental professionals. Hey Marie, how are you?
I'm very fine, thank you. How are you doing?
I am freezing my butt off. I guess what we should talk about is heating in apartments today. No, we won't talk about that. But yeah, it's a bit cold, but otherwise I'm fine. Well, let's talk today about maybe from an owner perspective, what are the first steps they have to take when they're looking for an apartment? How do they go about finding one? And if they're a foreigner or not living in France, can they buy an apartment as a non-resident?
Yeah, sure. This is a very good question. The topic is, are you going to be an owner in France? So yes, of course. If you are not a resident, you can purchase the properties in France. It's important to know what is the purpose of it. Is it going to be a secondary home? Do you intend on renting it? But I think we talked about that in our previous podcast, but maybe it will be another topic next time. I would not say it's very easy, but it's manageable. If you don't speak French, maybe we can talk about that a little bit later. But of course, you will have to do several things in France, and you will have to work from France in order to do so.
Yeah, I imagine. But at least it's good to know that if people did want to get a place for themselves in France or Paris, our beautiful city, then it is possible, even if they're not French or maybe even European. So could I do it on my own if I wanted to buy an apartment, like without an estate agent or something?
Yes, it's totally possible. Even if, as a real estate agent, we in this podcast, we several times said that just don't do it yourself. But no, really,
don't do it.
You can
use a professional.
Yeah, the subliminal messages. You can definitely do it on your own. It's possible. You can find somewhere to secure yourself. Even though probably we'll talk about the languages, there is many different legal things to know and to ask for in order to do so. So I would recommend to really be prepared if you plan on doing this on your own. But you can definitely buy from the future owners to the previous owner directly.
Well, yeah. And I think also the thing is if you try to do it on your own, where the heck do you look? I mean, if you're not in France at the moment and you want to buy a property, I'm sure there's a limited amount of places you can look for online.
Yes, you do have some online newspaper where you can find ads. You have to find an English-speaking one if you do not speak French. You can find also on social media like a group for expatriate people that can share eventually information on some apartment or villas or houses to purchase in France. It's often a bit difficult to plan when you are not in France. Like you do have, if really you find the property you'd like, you really need to be ready to jump on a plane and to be ready to view it, unless you are ready to buy it from distance. But I wouldn't recommend that, especially as we talked about all the scams we used to have when we were young, like on Craigslist and things like that. It's really important to be on site to do so.
Yeah, I think so. I think it really is something hard to do virtually. And I mean, you can never really, it's even like, it's possible to do a certain amount of steps, I think, virtually. But after that, you really kind of need to be there. And like, if I don't speak French, does that make it easier or harder?
I would say definitely harder, especially if you want to do it on your own. If you don't speak French and you pass through an agent, it will be an English speaking agent or any language speaking agent. Then it will be easy to do so as far as you checked, of course, the legitimacy of the agent. It's very easy. When you are on your own, if you want to purchase it directly from an owner, there is several things that you have to ask and to make sure you have in order to make an offer and in order to move forward in your purchase process. And if you don't speak French, it may be a bit complicated because except from the agent, the next step will be to be helped by a notaire, but the notaire who may be speaking English, it's usually on the step where you have been already committed to the property you are intending to purchase. So if you have any questions before, if you don't know how to I don't know, read the documents and everything, it may be a bit complicated.
So, talking about all the documents, we know, as we said before, that the French love their paperwork. So, what type of documents would I need to ask about in relation to an apartment sale?
So there is several mandatory documents that the owner or the agent should be able to give you upon request once the apartment or the property. I'm used to say apartment because I'm working in Paris, but if it's a villa or if it's a little house in the countryside, so for any purchase you do, you have to ask for the diagnostics, which are mandatory, which is like a list of I don't know, diagnostic would be the same word in English, I guess. It will be, you will have the exact size, so you are sure that the owner didn't enlarge the size of the apartment.
Oh, yeah. The size is by square meter, right?
Yes.
So you charge, all the prices in France it's a charge per square meter.
Yes.
So a few square meters difference can make a difference.
Yes, it can make a huge difference. But you have also to consider, for example, the square meter that you cannot count. For example, you can have like a 45 square meters, and if a part of the space is under the roof, for example, and is below 1 m 80, like I don't know how you would translate it in
1 m 80, 1.8 meters.
Everything that is below will not count. So something like a little room, a mezzanine where you can stand. But for example, for me, I'm pretty short, so I can stand easily on a space where it's only 1 m 70. It's easy for me. So all the square meters here are not counted. So sometimes you have to balance the price per square meters with the square meters that are actually not inside the diagnostics, but which are there, for example. It's also, for example, if you have a balcony or a cellar, it's not going to be counted in the square meters. It's considered as additional things. So there is a value, of course. For example, for a balcony or a terrace in Paris right now, the price can really be much higher with these kind of things, but we don't see that directly on the square meters numbers. So this would be the kind of thing you can get in the diagnostic, but you will have also information on the electricity system to see if it's up to date, if there is some renovation to do on that. You will have information on leads, if your property has been built before 1949. You will have information on termites. In some place, we need to verify that there is no thing this way. In some area of France, they will go for mérule, which is a kind of mushrooms that can go inside the wooden and humid areas.
Yeah.
So it's there is a lot of things that you have to see in the diagnostics, but it's usually like 50 pages documents, where if you don't speak French, because that was one of the questions, it's a bit complicated, even though for me, when I'm looking for information inside these diagnostics and I'm in the business, sometimes it's a pretty tricky to get the info. But you have to ask for that because it gives you some really important information that may help you to negotiate eventually. Like, for example, if there is some little work on the electricity, maybe you can negotiate the price because there is some things to do. You have also to ask, especially
and if you have your mushrooms.
Oh yeah, no, you don't buy.
Well, and if you have mushrooms and they're not magic, Well, yeah, but if they're magic mushrooms, maybe you want to keep them and that's an added value. But if they're not magic, then, well, yeah, get a discount.
Yeah, or a big, very big discount.
We'll be right back with Paris, A State of Mind after a word from our sponsors. And now back to Paris, A State of Mind.
If you purchase a place which is in a copropriété, which means that there is several owners, which is the case in the buildings, for example, you have the I don't know, because there is a name condominium, but I'm not sure that this is the exact
Yeah, it would be condominium fees. Yeah, that's what I would say, like homeowner fees where people live in the same complex and there's shared charges for the entire complex, and your quota is based upon the size of your apartment.
Yeah.
So yeah, we call it like homeowner fees or condominium fees in English.
So those documents, so you have to ask for the three last general assembly of the buildings, because in that, and we ask for three because in that you can see if there is any big renovation is planned, because depending on when it's going to be planned and when it's going to be paid for, then it may be a charge you are going to get, or maybe it's something that has been already paid and that will be done later. So it's very important to see that, because also in this kind of, we said PV, procès verbal, so it's like minute or statement.
Verbal process, yeah.
Maybe, from this General Assembly, you can really read under the line and see if there is any issue, if there is any fight between neighbors about any common area, for example, if there is any topic on the superintendent, if there is any topic on the maintenance of the building and everything. Everything will be in this PV d'AG. So you have to ask for the last three. Mm-hmm. And of course, you will ask for the building utilities, which are usually with the PV d'AG. And last but not least, you will ask the owner to have the taxe foncière, which is I don't know how to say that. It's a tax. It's a yearly tax.
It's a tax for an owner, like a property owner tax.
And it's based on the size of the of your property, and it will be paid through the public treasury. So this is the kind of documents you have to ask for. So then, depending on your level of French and your love of paperwork, you can probably it can work out.
Yeah, no matter how good or bad my French is, I think for me, I would definitely use somebody to assist me to work with an agent, because that's already way too much. And I have had like diagnostic reports in front of me too, and it's another language. I know it's supposed to be written in French, but it's not. It's some weird technical language that I don't understand.
Yes, and like dozens of information, and to see what is important, and because they are forced to for example, when they verify the leads, they are forced to, for example, say which machine are they using, when they bought it, and the quality of the machine, so everything is certified. So it's very important to get them, because it's really high level documents, but it's true that to read it, it's complex. Yeah. You have to plan plenty of hours on this specific portion of the project.
Well, and also what's written in a diagnostics report, there's things that they'll say that are obligatory, but there's also things that are just suggestions too, right?
Yes, especially on the electricity portion. So sometimes they say that there is anomaly, which would be like error or things to correct. So then, of course, this is something that probably the owner will correct before the final sale, or he may deal to be sure that it's going to be the buyer. And some stuff, it's only like, ideally, if you'd like to be square, it would be good to do this and that. So, and this is not written the same way. The name is not, it's like remarks, but it's still there. So,
which can work in your favor or not.
Yeah.
Depending on if you're the buyer or the seller.
I have the case right now with an electricity diagnostics where it says no anomaly, but in the remarks, it says that there is a little thing that in the bathroom should be there, but it doesn't say that if it's not, it's going to be like you are going to be electrocuted through the shower.
Yeah.
But it's enough, is stressful enough for the buyer to postpone the signature and to make sure that it's going to be corrected. And I have lost like several weeks because of that, because every electrician was saying, okay, no, but that's not a big deal. It's in the diagnostic. It's not a big deal. It's just a remark. There is no anomaly. But in the meantime, the buyer was saying, okay, but it's only a remark, but I want to make sure, because they said that if there is any issue, the insurance will not cover me because it's a remark. So it's like a tricky thing. So it's really important to like we said, like the devil hides in the details, right?
Yeah. Well, I think really that's why you really need somebody who understands all those documents to help you along with it. Um, so if I've got all my documents in order and things, how do I even go, like for the apartment sale, how do I even go about making an offer to the owner if there aren't any, say, agents involved? If I'm still trying to do this on my own, even though we don't recommend that.
So you can make an official offer. There is plenty of sample over the internet with the type of offer you can write. It's important to every time put all the details about the place you see, like the exact address, the square meters, the price, where it was advertised, and every little details that allows you to make sure that you're making the offer for the correct property. And inside you have to make, of course, you have to put your name. And if you are a couple, you have to put the two names, because the offer is for everyone. So it's not like I'm making the offer, but in fact we are two to purchase it. It will not be valid if you are not square on that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to put the fact that the price, the total price of your offer. Of course, the offer can be lower than the actual advertised price. And when you do so, you have to say if you intend on getting a loan or not. And if you do, you have to.
Really?
Yes. And you have to say that if you consider that it's going to be what we call a suspensive, enclosed suspensive, which would be like a way to be suspended. Like, in fact, you say, okay, I'm going to make an offer for this amount. I don't know, like, okay, it's 100,000 euros properties, very cheap. I'm going I'm bringing a down payment of 30,000 euros, and the 70,000 euros additional are going to be through a loan, but this is going to be suspended if I don't get the loan.
Oh, so it means like the sale is suspended.
Can be down.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Yes.
mm-hmm.
So it's, if you do have the money, and if you think that the loan is not a problem, because in fact you do have the money on the side, and even if you don't get it, you will purchase this property. If you don't put the suspended clause, it's like an asset, because that means for the owner that you are really committing on paying for that.
Mm-hmm.
That even though you don't get the loan, he will get his money. Sometimes people are not asking, okay, if you are not sure, just add the clause suspensive, because this way, if you don't get the loan, then the sale will not go through. But you don't play with this clause, because in fact you have to prove that you didn't get the loan and that you really looked for it. Like, you cannot say, okay, I'm making an offer, I said that I may have a loan, and then in the end the property is not what I want, and then in the end I said, okay, I want to drop this sale, and I didn't get the loan. No, you have to prove that you actually asked for the loan and that you have been refused. So this is a little things. But right when you make the offer, you have to say that, okay, I'm making an offer of this amount, and a portion of it will be a loan. You don't need to say especially the amount, but it would be good if you can say, okay, I have a down payment of 50,000 euros. It's always good for the buyer for the seller to know that you have money on the side. And you say, okay, it will be paid in any way. I don't have any suspended clause. Or you say, okay, I may get a loan, and if I don't get it, and you have, of course, to sign for it. If you are a couple, you are two to sign for it. And last but not least, put a deadline on it. Don't say I'm making an offer and whatsoever. It's put a deadline to say, okay, I'm making an offer. It's valid for a week or it's valid for 3 days. And you put the date and the time where it's going to be ended, meaning like pass this offer, then you are no longer committed to that. So this is the way to write it. And you can make it when the seller is signing it and say bon pour acceptation, which is okay, I'm agreeing, then you can go to the next step.
So basically, you decide what type of apartment you want to buy, or house or villa or whatever. You go through the process of finding some successful things. You start to, I guess, see places and make sure that you ask for those documents, like you said, the diagnostics and stuff. That's kind of the usual process at that point. And then you have to do that letter that we're talking about, the offer. What's that called in French?
Une offre. And in the meantime, but this is why you have to be really multitasking at this time, because it's good if you have been already in process in order to get a loan, because sometimes it's good to just go to see a bank. So it can be in outside of France, but usually foreigners take a loan in France, so it's easier to get and to have that. You do have to find a bank with people who speak English, for example. Many, I'm not going to say brands, but some brands are really international, so it's easy to get one. Even though they're not going to say exactly what they're going to give you, they can make like a simulation. So you can have like a first green light on getting a loan, because doing all this process to, in the end, having a bank who said, okay, your incomes are not enough to buy this property, it doesn't worth it. What I can suggest also is, before going to the bank, would be maybe go to see a courtier. So it will be a broker who will, before, and it's good to sometimes to do that before you see your own banks, because if you go to see your bank and your bank is saying, okay, I'm going to give you this loan with this percentage, very interesting. Then you'll see the courtier, and the broker is going to ask several banks, including probably your brand, for the best price they can give according to your profile. And even, for example, if you are at one bank and this bank is giving you through the broker a better deal, you will not be able to get this better deal to your directly with your bank. Asking to your banks what is the amount that they are able to give you, or the percentage that they are able to give you, will freeze the process. Like, then you are frozen. Like, okay, this bank give me a 1.5, and then I cannot get lower, even if through the broker who have they work on volume, they work with other details. So sometimes, if you are not already committed with a bank, it's good to see a broker and to ask them. And last but not least, the broker fees, you don't pay for that. You pay at the end. Like, when the broker is giving you the study or profile and give you everything that can be given, you are not paying at this point, but you will be paying them when the full process is ended. And it will be a little fee, but it's really nothing comparing to the amount that you are going to get, and it will be a little fee. And then in the end, they will get a commission from the banks, because this is the way it works. Every banks will give them a commission based on the number of clients that they are bringing. And in the meantime, they are also paid by the client, because in some way they help you save a lot of money. So it's a good way to get it.
We'll be right back with Paris, a State of Mind, after a word from our sponsors. And now back to Paris, a State of Mind. So I guess the important thing out of all of that is that before you get too down the road in the process of purchasing something, you have to figure out whether or not you're going to be able to buy it or not with a loan, if you need a loan, before you get through the whole process. Because then you could be wasting your time. You're looking for something that costs like 500,000 euros, and your bank says, well, lucky if you can get something for 200,000 euros.
Exactly. So then you will have the offer. So if it's accepted, then a lot of documentation are going to be sent to, you have to choose a notaire. You can also select the notaire, which is like a bailiff I don't know how we can translate notaire.
We call it a notary in English, but it doesn't have like in the Anglophone world, a notary doesn't have the same type of jobs that a French notaire does. A French notaire is kind of hoity-toity.
Yeah, we love to make it complicated. So maybe sometimes we'll talk about this. So then you will have to choose your notaire. So it can be the same as the seller. Sometimes we say, okay, it's better if everyone got his own to make sure that all the parties are represented. But it doesn't. If you have two notaires, it doesn't raise the price. The notary fees are based on the total amount, and it will be shared between them. So it's not an additional cost. So no problem to get your own. But you will have to, of course, send several information about you, your ID, and everything. There will be more documents requested to the seller because he will have to bring many different documentations, and then the notaire will write what we call the promesse de vente or the compromis, which is like a kind of pre-contract that will be help you to start especially if you want to, if you take a loan. This will be the beginning of the process in order to get the loan, and this will go all the way through the final signature. So we call that the acte authentique, which is usually between 3 to 5 months, depending on the process, sometimes on the notaire schedule, on the city hall paperwork delivery, on the condominium speedy answers. So it can be sometimes very fast, and sometimes we can the average time is usually 3 months, but lately on the sales we've done since a year, it's a little more than that.
And what happens if you sign a document saying that you want to buy the apartment and you go through things and then you decide you change your mind? Are you allowed to change your mind?
You are not supposed, once you do, you sign the compromis, which is really the more committing signatures. The first one, you are supposed to go through the banks and to ask for the loan. And if you really want to say, okay, I cannot get it, you have to prove that, and it's not one letter from the bank. You have to show that at least 2 or 3 banks have said no to your loan request.
But imagine that the bank said yes, but I decided I didn't want to buy that apartment anymore. Maybe it's because I found something I like better, or maybe it's because I got cold feet and I wanted to back out of the sale. Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah, but you will probably lose your down payment, because when you sign the compromis, you are supposed to give a percentage of the sum. Sometimes it's 10%. Sometimes it's like this amount is usually asked by the owner or the notaire. It's mandatory, but there is no rules. Like some people can ask for 15%, other can ask for 3%. So it really depends. And but once this is this is an amount that is going to be on the notaire's bank account. And if you said, okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting cold feet and I don't want to go ahead, then this amount will be lost. So if you put 50,000 euros on the table, not sure that you'd like to lose it. But if really this is the issue, yeah.
Too bad, so sad.
Exactly.
And just a question, one more question about the notary fees. Who's supposed to pay for that? Like, does that come out of the buyers? Is the buyer that's paying for it? It's the seller that's paying, or both?
Usually it depends on the type of mandat that you have, but usually it's the buyer who pays for that.
Ah, okay. Okay.
And depending on the type of mandat, then they can have a little lower notary fee. But it's not that big deal. It's not like a huge amount. It's not a huge difference in between. But it's the buyer who pay for that. So yes, definitely you do have, it's a good question, because you do have to think about that when you think about your global project. It's not only the price of the property, but it will be also the price of the notary fees. That there is a lot of places where you can get the information online if you don't want to pass through an agent. But if you pass through an agent, ask him to make you a kind of forecast of the amount that you may have to pay, because it may be high. And so if you are asking for a loan, you have to think and to consider that as well. Same as if you want to do some renovation, you probably need to make some quotation and things like that. And in order to, once you have a loan, if you are going to have a good price and a good rate, then you can make a loan for the global
Oh
thing.
my goodness. Wow. Thank you.
So
Yes, that was
this,
lots of
yeah,
advice.
this is not what you are used to do in your company, Gail. But so did you get some good input, or are you scared by?
Yeah, I think my head is spinning. Yeah, I'm scared. I'm never buying anything ever in my entire life. I'm afraid now, very afraid. But if I do, of course, I'd use a
Yeah,
professional.
call me.
But no, I think the first thing that is important that I learned is that before you get too into the process, you better make sure you can get funding, or otherwise you might be very sad and frustrated if you start on your apartment hunt and you can't do anything because you can't get your loan approved for something.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So that's really important to know that you should really think of your finances seriously before you get too much into the
yeah.
process.
And even some owners, especially if you deal directly with them, may tell you, okay, if you didn't even start the process, then we don't show you the place, because they want to make sure that once you are here, it's going to be serious.
Yeah, I think that's why that's almost like even with rentals, how a lot of times a person can't even get their foot in the door to see the apartment unless they've put their
Mm.
dossier, their file together, because no one wants to waste anyone's
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll make a session about a broker and how to get a loan when you are not French.
Yeah, I think we should definitely do that because I think it's really involved and we could have went on in this episode for a long time. But I guess the first thing that I could say about everything, I did learn that you can do it if you're not French, if you don't speak French. But it's easier if you are not French and you don't speak French to have somebody helping you. So to use a professional for all of this, and make sure that you looked into your finances before going too far down on the buying road. Is that a good
Yeah,
job?
exactly.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Well,
Thank you very much, Gail.
my pleasure. Thanks, Marie. That was great. I'm learning every day. See you next time.
See you next time. Bye bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to Paris, A State of Mind, featuring Gail of Perfectly Paris and Marie of Loquim, both who are founding members of the SPLM. Paris, A State of Mind is produced by Paris Underground Radio. The music, Jazz in Paris, is by Media Right Productions. For more information on this show and others, go to parisundergroundradio.com.